not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised.
I have an entire operation around shopping. I take it very, very seriously.
And I've got loads of items I just never even wear. Beautiful, beautiful quality. I've had it for over a year. It hasn't even been taken off the hanger.
When we look around the high street and stores, we see lots and lots of stuff. But the most interesting thing about consumption and buying is what's going on in our minds. The story of stuff begins in our imagination and in our fantasies. That's the space where we dream about all the things that we would really, really love to have, and what a wonderful life we would have if only we could have this stuff.
I always think, yeah, this is it. This is the item. This is what's going to make me happy.
What we consume is an expression of our identity, because our identity consists of a number of different facets. We have an actual self, who we actually are most of the time, but then we also have a social self. We buy products, clothes that express who we want to be at any point in time.
I have two moods. So I have this mood, and I also have this mood. And they're both as vital to me as the other. Like, I feel like sometimes clothes help me take on a character.
Buying something new makes me feel excited and like full of adrenaline.
Marketers are very, very good at speaking to the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that makes your heart just flutter. They can't do anything about it.
I buy clothes quite frequently. I tend to do a lot of my shopping online. So I have orders come in at least once or twice a week. I actually have an order right now that I'm going to pick up. It's a new dress and I'm quite excited to wear it.
Excessive consumption is actually proven to make us feel, if not bad, it doesn't make us feel good. Recent research has shown that when we have too many things, we are constantly dissatisfied.
Let's say I spend about half my lunch break looking at clothes and then a little bit in between work tasks. And then you add that to some time when I get home and then the actual purchasing. I would say maybe like 3 hours a day is spent looking at websites, looking at baskets, returning things. Yeah, it takes up quite a lot of my time.
Before the 16th, 17th century, many cultures thought of things as opposed to the self or the soul. And what we see in the modern period is a reversal. It is a cultural shift that things start to be seen as central to our identity.
There's something really interesting happening actually with consumers. People are actually beginning to get fed up with stuff.
We spoke to 3 generations of grandmothers, mothers and daughters. For the grandmother generation in that post-war era, there was a much greater emphasis placed upon being frugal. The mother's generation, they wanted to be modern and embrace technologies like the freezer and the microwave. The daughters rejected a lot of that. They saw themselves as being experimental, buying different ethnic foods, trying different styles of cooking, buying organic produce, ethical products. What we found was that these generations of women were all the same in wanting to be different, and the way in which they did that was through how they shopped and bought and used stuff.
With the topic around climate change and the impact the fashion industry has on the climate, I am trying to be more mindful of my shopping. So I've recently made a rule to try and make sure that at least 50% of my wardrobe comes from vintage stores. And I really want to get to a point where I'm more mindful about it and it's less fast fashion and less vapid.
We've got so much stuff now, we don't really know what to do with it. We spend a lot of time trying to work out how to get rid of the stuff that we've got. Now, rationally, we might say, well, maybe we should stop buying all of this stuff, but we don't do that. What we do is retreat back into our imaginations and into our fantasies, and so we start the cycle all over again.
I would say yes, I do have a mild problem when it comes to shopping. But I like to think that I could stop if I wanted to. Oh my God, that's exactly what an addict says, isn't it?
Matthew 6:19-24. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you'll hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So long before we heard terms like window shopping and consumerism and retail therapy, Jesus warned us about the dangers of wanting and accumulating stuff. And as the video showed us, excessive consumption at best doesn't make us feel good, and at worst makes us feel bad. And yet right now, I bet all of us have something or some things that we want, that we've been thinking about, dreaming about, looking at, trying to work out how we get it. A new phone, a new watch, some jewellery, a new car, some new clothes, a computer, some sports equipment, something for the house. The list is endless. I'm dreaming of a 65-inch HD TV to replace my old 55-inch TV, which functions just fine. But even as we buy new stuff, it's becoming outdated because there's always newer, flashier, more up-to-date stuff being made, deliberately designed to make you want to upgrade and replace your existing stuff. And so our nice, shiny new stuff, which for an all too brief moment brought us joy, quickly becomes old stuff. We become dissatisfied, and the endless cycle of accumulating stuff continues. Because to live in a consumer society like ours is to buy into the myth that buying stuff makes us happy. But the truth is, consumer societies, consumer-based economies don't want us to be happy with the stuff we've already bought. The real message, hidden in all the advertising and marketing and social media and influencing, is it's only the next thing you buy, the latest and greatest, that will make you truly happy. So happiness in a consumer society is always just out of reach, because there's always something new coming out. And so Jesus tells us, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. So there's two important things here that Jesus points out. First, physical treasure, stuff, is subject to decay and destruction. Rachel and I were reminded of this when we stored a lot of our things from our first house in Te Raumutu in my parents' garage when we moved back to Auckland. When we started looking through boxes after a while, we noticed that vermin, mice, had indeed eaten through quite a lot of expensive Tupperware, some of which was irreplaceable limited edition Tupperware. I had no idea there's such a thing, but my wife informed me there was. Needless to say, Rachel was not very happy. So treasure can get old. It wears out, it breaks down, or it gets damaged beyond repair. Or it can get stolen. So while it doesn't seem to be radical teaching that stuff can get stolen, what I think Jesus is talking about here is that our stuff, our physical treasure, can make us anxious. It causes us to worry. Because we do worry, don't we? We lock our houses when we leave or when we go to bed. We lock our cars when we leave them out in public. At some workplaces and public areas, there are lockers provided so we can store our stuff and feel that it's safe. In some countries, there's a scam they put on tourists. Someone will drop a wallet in front of you. The idea being that you'll instinctively check that you still have your wallet. And so to the thieves who are watching you, they now know exactly where your wallet is when they try and pickpocket you. And it would work, wouldn't it? When we're traveling, we're anxious about our stuff, our treasure. If they drop food, a hat, or a phone, we wouldn't necessarily check those things even if we had them on us. But our wallets, our cash, our cards, our treasure, that's an anxiety they can exploit. And so Jesus provides a simple remedy. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. So how then do we store up treasures in heaven? Later in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus meets a rich man who asks what he must do to have eternal life. Jesus tells him, if you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. Matthew 19:21. And as we know, the man went away sorrowful, for he had many possessions. But that's not us, right? None of us are rich, are we? I mean, Elon Musk, he's rich, right? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they're rich. So we don't have to give away our stuff, do we? And no, we don't. That's not what that is talking about. But do ask yourself this question. How much time do I spend pursuing, storing, maintaining, and thinking about stuff? And how much time do I spend pursuing God? But back to our original question, how do we today in Waimakariri store up treasures in heaven? Well, a good place to start will be remembered that we're looking at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' revolutionary way of living. And he's been telling us throughout the Sermon on the Mount how to store up treasures in heaven. We store up for ourselves treasures in heaven by being meek, by hungering and thirsting for righteousness, by being merciful and pure of heart, by being peacemakers. We store up for ourselves treasures in heaven by being salt and light, by following God's commands, by not committing murder and adultery in our hearts, by keeping our promises and not taking revenge for ourselves. We store up for ourselves treasures in heaven by loving our enemies and praying for those who persecute us, by giving to the needy, praying and fasting in private. Obviously, that's not a complete list, but you get the idea. By daily, actively living out our faith, by seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, this is how we store up for ourselves treasures in heaven. And why? For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in Jesus' day, they believed that the heart was not just the control of emotion and affection, but also of thought, conscience, and will. It was the control center of a person's character. And so in Proverbs 4:23, there is a warning. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So if your heart is set on money and possessions, that will become the focus of your life. And to paraphrase one of the commentaries I read, preoccupation with earthly treasure will inevitably lead our hearts astray. And the type of treasure that we accumulate is a reliable indicator of what we value. So if we were to take an inventory of our lives today, what types of treasure are we accumulating? Treasure on earth or in heaven? Because as we know, you can't take your stuff with you when you die. But your acts of faith and righteousness will follow you to heaven. Listen to this. Revelation 14:13. Then I heard a voice from heaven say, "Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them." Make sure that the treasure you are accumulating has eternal value, or it has no value at all. Jesus goes on. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? When Jesus says that the eyes is the lamp of the body, there was this idea in Jesus' day that your inner light, your character, would shine out through your eyes, illuminating what you could see. And this is how the eyes made it possible for the body to navigate through life. And when he talks about the eyes being healthy, the Greek word is haplous, literally translated as the eye is clear or single. And in contrast, the word for unhealthy is poneros, which means bad, but is literally translated as evil. And while the evil eye can have sinister connotations, there is a Jewish expression where the evil eye refers to miserliness and being selfish. So in the context of this passage, a healthy eye has a clear, single focus on God and undivided loyalty to the kingdom of heaven. And in contrast, an unhealthy eye has divided its attention, trying to focus on God and possessions. And so instead of the body being full of light, it is full of darkness. And if that darkness comes from within, from focusing on things other than God, how great is that darkness? Remember that later in Matthew 22:37-38, Jesus says this. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. There is no room in the kingdom of heaven for undivided loyalties. No, I've said that wrong. There is no room in the kingdom of heaven for divided loyalties. And Jesus reinforces this idea in our last verse today. No one can serve two masters. Either you'll hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So you've probably heard of the word mammon, which is what the NIV has translated in this passage into money. Mammon, because of how Jesus used it here, has become a bad word. However, the word itself is neutral and simply means possessions or wealth, not actually specifically money. And it is possible to serve two masters. The point is you cannot give total loyalty to two masters. And so Jesus employs some hyperbole, as he sometimes does, to make a point. If you serve two masters, you will love one more than the other. And Jesus calls us to love him above all else, even our families. In Matthew 10:37, Jesus says this, anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Now, Jesus isn't saying don't love your family any more than he's saying don't have money or possessions. But Jesus, who loves us so much that he died a criminal's death on a cross for us, is saying, I want to be the most important thing in your life. More important even than your family, your friends, and certainly more important than your stuff. And so you cannot serve both God and money. Now, there may be those of you who are saying this to yourself, but all this time and effort I put into work, my career, my business, accumulating money and stuff, it's not for me, it's for my family. Isn't that a good thing? And yes, absolutely, we should provide for those that we love. But here's a couple of thoughts to finish with. First, if we're really honest, we already have more stuff than we need to be comfortable. We have houses and cars, food in our fridges, clothes in our wardrobes, and houses full of stuff. So one challenge for Christians, disciples of Christ, is how much stuff do we actually need? I mean, clearly I need a 65-inch TV, but I believe there is something to be said for living more simply. And secondly, what are the generations who are coming behind us going to see? What will our children, our grandchildren, our nephews and nieces, what will they see is important to us? Will they see us living with a clear, undivided focus on God? Or will they see us trying to serve two masters, God and money? Because there's a well-known saying I'm sure you've heard. Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you are saying. We cannot tell our families that faith and God are more important than stuff if we don't live like it ourselves. Our families know what's important to us. Your children know what's important to you, often despite what we might say. Because they can see where our hearts are. They can see what treasure we're storing up for ourselves. So, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Amen. Let's finish with some songs.